Sterling. That's a penalty, is it? No, he's still going. Oh, how about that? How about that?
Carried on into the penalty area. Here he is. And then Giroud. What a goal. Brilliantly worked. Fantastically finished.
Here's Ramsey. And Alexis Sanchez. Great footwork. 3-0. Liverpool blown away. A 3-goal, 8-minute Arsenal blast.
For Alexis, blocked by Newcastle defender. Still not clear. Wow, what a volley. Where others failed, Ozil has succeeded. Well done, Arteta. Fancy a bit here.
Yes! Arsenal have their breakthrough. Mikel Arteta, they deserve it.
Oh, they're behind again. It's amazing. It's Aaron Ramsey. That's the response of Arsenal. Andy Iwobi, nicely done. Brilliantly done. Bellerin, Walcott. Sensational Arsenal goal.
Is that a handball? No. Nothing the play can do. Great, what a goal! Arsenal have made it 3-0. Jack Wilshere with an absolute thunderbolt.
We need a new intro. Wilshere, Walcott, fucking Ozil.
I love it.
You're very fuzzy today, actually, Max. Is your internet working? Welcome, everyone.
Yeah,
Welcome to another. Look, we can't read. This is live. Come on, this is live. Welcome to another edition of Thursday Night Live, a podcast, a live show here on Clock End Talk Radio. Can I call them that? I just can't work out how to say that properly. Thursday Night Live from Clock End Talk. Is that right? Don't know. It's hard this Thursday night, isn't it? There's no prep. Fucking game finishes. Have a quick fag. Have a quick drink. Rush over and see you two beautiful boys. How are you this evening?
Yeah, good, thank you.
I'm good. I'm glad you're there.
My internet might be slightly delayed. I don't know. I'm waiting for everyone else to talk first. No, good. Buzzing off Old Trafford still. Nice 4-1 win tonight. Couldn't be much better.
Max, welcome.
G'day,
all the
mate.
way from out of lockdown Melbourne. What's it been like being outside this week?
It's been really good. I'm burnt to fucking buggery. I've done the full-blown Englishman trick and gone and sat in the first bit of sun at the beach I can and fried myself. But no, full week of work. The bar was obviously closed for 7 months, so it's been reopened under heavy restrictions, but we got fucking fisted the whole weekend. They opened up on a long weekend, so just my asshole's about fucking that big at the moment. It's about 7 dicks inside of it made of money.
Well, wait till I finish with you tonight, you two. You two are going to be completely fucked. I've had it with you two. I don't go on the group. We've got a WhatsApp chat. Those of you listening, we've got a WhatsApp chat, which you can join. A Clock End Talk WhatsApp chat. And I don't normally go on that. I like to watch the game. I can't be distracted. And Liam, I don't know why you're on it, because you're 3 minutes delayed on your screen.
Fucking idiot. Every single goal.
You heard the goals from us. You heard the goals from a WhatsApp group when you're watching it on the fucking telly. Just fucking turn your phone off.
Yeah, whoops. Oh well. I distracted myself with a game instead for the fourth goal, and I missed it because I was too engrossed in the game. So,
well, I don't know where to start with you two tonight. I mean, I guess while it's all fresh in our minds, we'll talk about tonight. Your comments at half time were things like Pepe's a cunt. I think I quote Max there. William's a cunt. I think I quote Liam there. Do like, for fuck's sake, this is a game on Thursday night where the players, maybe rightfully or wrongfully, are being asked to play in the second 11, in the reserves, against a team from Norway on a cold, very, very cold London night in an empty stadium. It takes a bit of time for them to get going, and get going we did. And once again, 3 points, top of the group, and very, very comfortable. Why are you so negative in that game at halftime? Max, let me start with you. Last week, You were so excited after the Thursday night game. You were so enjoying it. You were saying how great it was to see Willock play as well, and he did. That was a cracking goal by Pepe, and it's nice to see him. And you actually said something like, "I don't care. We've got to get Pepe into the side because he may not be very good for 88 minutes, but he's got something in him that can change the game." Like today, scores one, assists, and yet at half time you're calling him a cunt. Max? Defend yourself.
Well, I think this is I think, unfortunately, and I was chatting in my Arse Brothers group about this during the game as well. But unfortunately, this is the nature of the type of player that we have gone and got in Pepe. You know, when he's doing things and when it's coming off for him, he looks like a serious player. My comment wasn't actually Pepe is a cunt. I think I might have called I called Willian a cunt. I think I called him an old cunt, actually.
You'll be calling me that by the end of this.
Yeah, no, I usually just say it behind your back, mate. But anyway, what I was actually saying about Pepe was that he is so inconsistent in everything that he does, and that people think that the thing that Pepe does well is the thing that he does well, but the thing that people think that Pepe does well, he's actually awful at, which is dribbling. He fucking falls over his feet relentlessly, constantly. And where he's actually really good is in tight, short passing spaces. And his first time finish, his one-touch finish, I challenge you to find someone who has a better conversion rate from the opportunities he has. So, like, as the game goes on and you start to see it sort of move and mold and start to change, I think sometimes, you know, as all fans, we're quite reactive. And I did say he was Jovino in disguise a couple of times as well. But it does beg the question of whether or not Pepe is in fact a right winger, or whether or not we actually now need to. We've invested £70-odd million in him. You know, do we need to find a different system to suit Pepe, or change the system up to suit Pepe?
Well, Liam, you're a technical, tactical expert on this show. Max says there that we brought Pepe in because of his dribbling skills. You watch YouTube highlight clip reels, don't you? You watch these things. You'll see 100 clips of Pepe, and I've got to say, when we signed Pepe, I didn't know anything about him, and I watched a YouTube clip, and I watched him score. I don't know. They showed all these 50 goals in the French league, and I would say that 70% of those goals were counter-attacking goals where the team broke away quickly. He used his pace and his finishing. You know, that's to me the player we've got under an Unai Emery side that wanted to play counter-attacking football. You know, but when we come to this sort of standard of football and Premier League football, where we're actually having to break teams down, maybe that isn't his strength, but I still see enough in him to say, wow, what a player. And I want him to play ahead of Willian in that side at the moment. Liam?
Well, yeah, the thing is, I would ask the question is, if you put him in place of Mohamed Salah at Liverpool, does he score an awful lot more goals? I would argue he's probably comes close to Salah's goal tally, just because of the way that the Salah doesn't convert many of his chances, but he has enough shots on goal that he scores plenty. And Willian's superpower is Pepe's superpower, sorry, is shooting. He can strike a ball really well. Like Max was saying, his first touch on that first strike is phenomenal. But he doesn't always need, if he takes a second or a third, when he gets a shot off, it's still phenomenal. That's his superpower. So for me, when we're sticking him out over on the right wing with chalk on his boots, he's not where he can be effective. But if you stuck him in Liverpool, where you get Salah close to the goal, I bet you he scores a fuckload of goals, and I bet he becomes that £72 million player again.
Maybe so. I don't agree with a lot of that, if I'm honest. I saw some complaints as well in the group, and I think it was from you as well, Max, that Ainsley Maitland. Well, it was the things that I picked up from listening to you two watch the game. You know, and I'm not. You know, we're not in the same room. I'm not active on the group, but you said in your Williams not very good and Pepe's not very good, and then you said Ainsley Maitland-Niles is having a good game. You know, you said
I thought he had a really good game.
But this is my point with Arsenal fans, and this is my point with you, Max. You said you've made up your mind that Pepe and Willian are no good tonight, and you've made up your mind that Ainsley Maitland-Niles is. Ainsley Maitland-Niles overhit a couple of simple passes tonight where he put the ball out of play when Pepe was making that run. He makes those passes right, then Pepe's in space and he can shoot, he can do what Liam is saying, and he's a great finisher, he could shoot. But you've decided that, Pepe made the run, Pepe's created the space, Pepe's gone into that, or Willian have gone into that space, and then Ainsley Maitland-Niles has overhit the ball. I'm not saying that Ainsley Maitland-Niles is terrible, but I try to watch the game and actually look at it and go, oh, actually, Ainsley Maitland-Niles didn't overlap hardly at all in the game tonight. And Pepe and Willian need that. They need a Bellerin.
But that wasn't why I thought Ainsley Maitland-Niles had a good game, and that's the fallacy, because people look to that player and they look at him from an offensive perspective. Now, if you were to break that down,
Max, we're defending against a team from Norway. Yeah, they're not even the champions of Norway. This is a game where it's not about defending. Kolasinac, who, I don't like to criticise any Arsenal player, but Kolasinac isn't very good. He isn't very good, but how many times did he overlap and try to put crosses in tonight? Ainsley Maitland-Niles is meant to be doing the same role on the opposite flank and didn't tonight. So Pepe he's got to come back inside. Willian's got to come back inside the whole time to try and to do something. And he's standing there. I don't think he's a very good dribbler. Go on, Max, I think
you have to be careful about reading into groups, because messages that get put in groups are spaced out throughout the entire game. And then at the end of the game, we have the hindsight of the entire game to go back and make those comments look foolish.
That's the point.
So, when it came into it at halftime, I thought Ainsley Maitland-Niles had been very good up until halftime. I thought he'd been solid. I actually thought he'd got forward quite well. He'd played a couple of balls into Joe Willock where he'd come inside. His recovery speed was very good. I thought that he was very good in the air. And for me, I like the look of him there because it's a very different look to when Bellerin is there. When Bellerin is there, I think it looks quite lightweight. When Ainsley Maitland-Niles is there, I see how quickly he recovers space from when he gets forward. So that's why I thought he was quite good. And I think I'm the least person to make predetermined decisions on people. I actually try and always be a little bit more rounded and open in my opinions. And I also think that once we got on the front foot, again, it shows Pepe to be a little bit of a fair weather player and a little bit of a flat track bully. Because once Arsenal get into the driver's seat and Joe Willock starts driving essentially into a number 10 position for the last 30 minutes of the game, everyone's driving forward, and all of a sudden Pepe looks like a great player because he's released of the constraints of a structured football team. So I don't think it's as easy to just simply say one person is crap and one person is good and one person is this and one person is that. In my group, I said, I see Pepe as a Europa League player for us, and I see him as a bench player in the Premier League. I'm not a fan of Willian, but I think Willian got unfairly criticised against Manchester United for doing nothing when he was really important to us maintaining the structures, but he offers very little in the final third. So for every argument for one of these guys, I have an equal and a counter argument, Darren. So maybe my decisions of words in the heat of the moment, I'll sit next to you at a game of football and see how many people you call a cunt in a game.
I look forward to it. I don't know. I genuinely don't. I can name a handful of players in my time that I've really, when their name's on the team sheet, I'm thinking, what the fuck? What does the manager see in them? But it's few and far because I watch football. I just heard a stat on the TV. I don't know what coverage you were watching, but it was a stat. It was 37 years since Tony Adams made his debut or something to the day. And I suddenly thought, blimey, I am very, very old, but maybe that's it. Maybe that is just, I have a little bit of a different perspective because I've seen bad, Liam, back on this Pepe, Ainsley Maitland-Niles. If you look at Bellerin's stats this year, he's leading the assists. He's had a very productive season. I'm still not 100% convinced by Bellerin. I think since he's come back from injury, he's lost a little bit of pace. He was never the best technical player that we had, but he always had that little bit of pace and always got to the byline, always put a cross in. And this year it's paying dividends. I think Max said last week that he would rather he sees that Ainsley Maitland-Niles is going to be our future right back at the club. So I was watching him, particularly Max, on your comments last week. Where do you stand on this? Did you think Ainsley Maitland-Niles was good tonight, or were you a little bit disappointed?
No, I wasn't disappointed in him. I think I was disappointed in the way he was used more than his performance, because usually when we talk about whether a fullback overlaps or if they come inside or if they are more conservative, that's generally speaking, that's a coaching instruction. Because I noticed as soon as Willian and Pepe swapped flanks and Pepe was on the left, Maitland-Niles started overlapping. And that's when Willian came inside. And it frustrates the fuck out of me because Willian, for me, was so ineffective throughout the whole game and really didn't offer much at all. But Maitland-Niles has suddenly started overlapping. So I just think to myself, why can't you have overlapped when Pepe was on the right-hand side, like Cedric did when he came on? He did it a bit more, I felt. That it was the way he was used that frustrated me more than his performance.
So don't you look at that then and say that when William moved to the right-hand side, his play and his movement were that much better than Pepe's, that he created the space to allow for that overlap? Is there not, Ainsley Maitland-Niles just didn't, there's a reason. They swapped places and suddenly there was room for an overlap. And and Kolasinac, who had been bombing down all the side when William was that side, actually, for a little period was stopped and was coming inside of it. I just wonder if you're being not giving enough credit to William for his experience and his movement, that he's creating the space to allow the overlap.
Possibly. Yeah, I mean, possibly I am being slightly harsh on Willian, and maybe he did more that I didn't pick up.
He didn't. He did nothing. You're fine.
Okay. Well, I coached.
Okay, look, he says he did nothing. Okay, and this isn't me supporting now Willian. It's again watching a player. I thought for the first 20 minutes he was so ineffective. He looks like a player that's unfit. I even wondered if the manager played him tonight to try and get some minutes into him, because he's trying to play him into some form. Because I wrote
that down when I read the lineups. I said Willian is starting because Arteta is desperate for him to find his feet.
Yeah, and so that so let's give him some time. Let's and the comment that you made, Max, is that when the game opened up, when Willock, you said, was driving forward, then the things changed. However, that's because for an hour we had tired the fuck out of them. We had made all those movements, and when you watch Willian, if you had watched a player cam of Willian, all he did was move. He's sensible enough that he didn't just stand around. Pepe just tends to stand there and hug the flank and wait for the ball to be put by feet, which is why there's no overlapping. If Pepe comes deeper a little bit and moves a little bit more, then there's room. But Pepe is stuck on that chalk mark, and therefore there was no overlap. So,
this is the nature of player performance, Darren. Because last week a lot of people were attacking Willian for a lack of production. And I was saying the reason why we beat Man U was because we were so incredibly well structured, right, that they couldn't break us down. And Willian was a really important part of that. And in that particular game with that particular structure, I wouldn't trust Pepe to do the same job as what Willian did. So I was actually quite pro Willian in that game. But the funny thing is I see Willian as a player that I want to see played there when we go to top 6 opposition and we need to maintain structure. And then when we go into a team, like you said, who aren't even the top team in Norway, I expect to see players who break structure, who do something with the ball. And I find with Willian, he doesn't show enough personality on the ball. Everything he does off the ball, no one can sit there and say he ever puts in a lazy performance, or he doesn't run high numbers, or he doesn't constantly move. He is a perpetual motion player. But when he does get on the ball, there's a little bit of a lack of attitude. There's a little bit of a lack of personality. And I was saying to the guys in my group, we seem to have so many of these players in the team now who do 50% of the game very, very well and 50% of the game not what we want to do. We lack a number of complete players. And I guess in some cases it comes into what you said, Darren. There could be an argument for, well, you play someone like Willian, you maintain the structures, you get deep into the game without losing the game, without shipping early goals, and then you bring on your flashy players and you move your formations once people are tired. And this may very well be the intent from Arteta. I said after the Liverpool game, I said after the City game, for me, Arteta's intent is don't lose it until we've had the opportunity to win it. And I've got no issue going and blasting 3 goals in the second half. And I think there is a little bit of spininess, a little bit of reactiveness with Arsenal at the moment, because we're so unsure of how the bits of the puzzle go together. And Arteta is so fluid in his formation and fluid in his mindset, it actually becomes hard for us as amateur pundits to work out what he's doing, because I think that level of coaching might be a little bit beyond most of us. I mean, people are still having arguments about 4-3-3s and the heat maps. Like Darren and I downloaded this Stat Zone app. The heat maps basically show Arsenal in a 4-3-3 with the ball relentlessly. So it's not 3 at the back. So I just think that there's something that's going on here that I hope that we see play out over the next 3 or 4 weeks. And it starts to become apparent that that's his plan and that's why he bought Willian and that's how he's going to use him. And
did you look at that team tonight and think this is a bit of a misfits 11? You know, I mean, throughout that team, you know, you've got Xhaka, who's been our, you know, leader, who's now sort of been pushed aside by the arrival of Thomas Partey. You've got Pepe, 72 million pound price tag hanging over his head. You know, if you go throughout that side, Mustafi, you know, not the fans' favourite by a long chalk. Louis got a mistake in him. You know, you know, there was
AMN off the right, barely played off the right this year.
Yeah, you know, everywhere through that team. And then within that, you've got some stars, you know, some Willock and Ketia. And I'm talking about stars loosely in the fact that players that are on the brink are on their way up, you know. So, and Ketia and Willock are very good examples, you know. And then you've got Ceballos, who's a really very, very talented player, but very disappointing tonight. Didn't get involved in the game until the last 15 minutes. Is that because he's from Real Madrid, he's on loan, and he's playing in front of no fans on a cold Thursday night in an empty stadium? Are some of these players like Pepe, you know, they need that crowd? We've said that some players have got better because there's no crowds. Our goalkeeper that we sold, you know, playing I've forgotten his name, Emi Martinez. You know, we don't know what he was like playing in front of fans. He was very confident in an empty stadium in a training facilities type scenario. So I just wonder if Willian, you know, maybe it is just hard for them to raise their game on a night like tonight. And that's a problem. You know, that's something they've got to fix because they're professional footballers earning a lot of money, and it's not our fault we can't go and support them. Sorry, I'm ruffling on a bit. I want to just go back. Mistake tonight for me by Arteta was playing Leno in goal.
That did not make a lot of sense to me. Runnison had a good run out in the game prior. It's not like he's trying to play Leno into form. Leno has hit a reasonable stretch of form after, you know, he had a couple of dodgy moments, but I think he's been quite good. That decision didn't make a huge amount of sense to me. As you said, the rest of the team was a bit of a slapdash team and put together, but I think it makes sense. Liam, any reason why you would have thought that Leno over Runnison? Am I saying that right? Runnison?
I think it's as close as we're going to know.
Yeah. You're on mute, champion.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I know we don't let you talk very much anyway, but when we do, you should try and say
just go on mute.
I forget. I've got 2 mute buttons, one on the screen and one on me on my microphone. No, I didn't. I said in the group before, and I didn't think it was really necessary for Leno to start. I couldn't really see much reason for Willian to start besides the fact maybe it was playing into form, but besides the fact we don't have many wingers.
Nelson was injured, wasn't he? So that was the reason.
Yeah, so I could see why that one, but I didn't really get overly upset over it. But at the same time, it didn't feel necessary. I felt like Runnison did fine. No reason not to leave him out.
The problem for me is this scenario, and unfortunately, I'm getting a lot of bets right at the moment. So this is one that I almost don't want to voice out loud. I actually 4-1 tonight, put on at half time. So I just wanted, you know, for me, this scenario, we're playing Aston Villa on Sunday evening. 10 minutes into the game, Leno gets injured. We then have the choice to bring on a goalkeeper that not only hasn't had a game really for Arsenal. One match he's played for Arsenal, so he's going to be nervous, and he also doesn't have the support of his manager. He doesn't have the confidence of his manager. And with goalkeepers, it's all about confidence. Liam, you're a goalkeeper, so I'm just so concerned that if something happens to Leno now, we've got a goalkeeper that's going to come in with no confidence because the manager doesn't have confidence in him, and you know, no match practice if you like.
No, I mean, whether he has confidence in him or not, only Arteta can really say. It doesn't.
No, but Liam,
the lineup suggests
the fact that he didn't pick him. If I'm Renison, I'm going to be thinking, "Fuck me! It's the Europa League. We're top of the league. We're playing the Norwegians. I played really well last week. Why aren't I playing again?" The manager, the manager doesn't rate me.
Yeah. If the lineups would suggest that, I totally agree. But what goes on behind the scenes, I'm saying, because a lot can go on behind the scenes that makes a goalkeeper feel more confident. What they do with the goalkeeping coaches, etc. But I do agree. In the future scenario, let's say Leno does get injured. I mean, Emi came on and did perfectly fine. Don't recall him having many minutes under Arteta either. Yeah, it's a slight worry. It's the uncertainty that worries me more than his ability. I don't know enough about him to know how well he'll handle it. Maybe he'll be perfectly fine, and we're great. But yeah, it's the unknown, I guess, is the worry.
Yeah, and Leno should have saved that first shot, shouldn't he? It's about 100 yards out. I think I would have saved it.
I think he got done by the dip. I think he got done by the dip. I think he thought it was flying.
Well, there was lots of problems with it, wasn't there? I mean, nobody closed him down. He had enough time to actually, but he's a long way out. It's got to be 30 yards out.
Yeah, there was a really horrible screenshot someone put up at halftime of the back four, because Xhaka had essentially been in that back four and he'd gone into midfield, and it was like we were essentially playing like a 1-1.
It was embarrassing.
It was fucking terrible.
It was embarrassing.
Yeah.
Well, we'd all gone back for the short corner to play out from the back, hadn't we? They'd sort of all run back, and Luiz, was static, wasn't he? I'm sure he was in that picture. He was miles away from him. He was the man who should have gone towards him and closed him down, at least hurried him up a bit. And he's in the way. I think
this is the nature of these Arteta multiple movable pieces, though. When we're out of possession, we are very structured. When we are in possession and we're expecting to retain possession, I think our shape moves around so much, but
it's a negative, and it's one small negative. I just was very surprised by that decision. Just like to say hello to those who are listening to us live. Some of you sent some messages in. Schwinn has joined us. He hosted the excellent Clock and Talk review show on Tuesday. You can catch that wherever you get your podcasts, or watch it. A replay on YouTube. Hello, Glasgow, Gunnar and Rohan as well are with us, along with some others. What else do we take out of tonight? What did we learn? Willock is really pushing for a place there.
Definitely.
Yeah.
He's getting closer and closer.
Of all of the young lads, he's driving forward the most at the moment, and I am very sexually excited by the idea of a Willock, Elneny and Partey midfield. For me, that's got so much running, so much recovery, and so much structure. I'm erect.
Spot on
right
now.
So sorry, you just said I'm so looking forward to that Willock, Partey and Elneny.
Yeah, well, I knew.
We'll talk about.
I knew it was coming, Darren.
Manchester United. We'll talk about Manchester United in due course. So Willock, we're all happy with. Do you feel like Nketiah very soon is going to score about 6 in a game? His runs are perfect. He gets in the right place all the time, and he's just the ball's bobbling for him. It's just not coming off at the moment. Great movement though, and I actually started to think. I've been quite a supporter of Lacazette when everyone was slagging him off, but I thought Nketiah also holds the ball up well in that role that Arteta is playing him. You happy with Nketiah, or are you a bit disappointed, Liam, that he's not really scoring the goals?
No, I thought it was unfortunate not to get 2 because he did actually put 2 in the back of the net. It's just his teammates were offside. But what I quite like is that he still plugs away. He still gets in the spots and goes, right, the next one will go my way. And he perseveres with it. So there's a certain confidence in him that I like. And I think if he bulks up, because he still feels quite slim and weak to me, if he bulks up, I think he'll be quite a useful player.
Maybe.
I don't think he's got the DNA, Liam. But I can't see him getting bigger. I can see him like getting into a man's frame, but he's already 21. He's not going to all of a sudden turn into fucking
maybe not
Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank.
No, but Max, Liam, I see him very much as the build and type of player as Ian Wright. He's got that dynamic. Ian Wright was terrific. The best finisher probably I've ever seen at the club. Just scored goals for fun. And I see the sort of movement that Nketiah makes is the same sort of movement that Ian Wright made. And Ian Wright was, 5'8", very slim, slight. And I'm hoping, and I can see Nketiah more like Ian Wright without the finishing at the moment. That's why I just say it sort of feels like he's going to get a bucketful soon, because he's always in the right place. he's always the one putting it in when the others are offside. You know, he's
well,
got that natural
he
instinct.
can only put his hand up and tell Arteta that he's here because it looks to me like Arteta is desperate for Lacazette to find form. I watched a highlights reel of 2018 Lacazette the other day, and I think for a lot of us, we may have forgotten how deadly he was for periods in that season. He was smashing balls in, goals against Tottenham, goals against Man U. He was our main man. And I honestly think Arteta is just like Lacazette firing versus Eddie firing. Lacazette is the superior player, and I think he's going to give Lacazette every opportunity to find some form. But Eddie can't do anything more than what he's doing. I'll tell you the thing I love about the difference between Eddie and Lacazette. Lacazette is out of form, so Lacazette is going looking for the ball, right? He wants to go and touch the ball because he's out of form, and he's driving it. A lot of people think it's a tactic. Oh, Mikel wants him to go and backfill the midfield. I think that there is an element of a tactic there, but I don't believe that it's the whole tactic. The thing I love about what Eddie does, I often talk about like wingers retaining shape and retaining width to make the pitch bigger, to open up spaces for people to make dynamic runs into the holes. Eddie does the same thing, but he does it lengthways for us because he occupies centre backs high up the pitch. It means it actually opens up space in the midfield. And you saw today that Pepe and Willock particularly ran into that midfield space. And that's that midfield space that Aaron Ramsey used to occupy. And Aaron Ramsey used to occupy that because Giroud, even though a completely different player, also used to play very, very high and batter the centre backs and leave that backfill space open. So he's honestly, he's putting his hand up as much as he can put his hand up at the moment to say, pick me.
What else did we learn tonight? Did we learn that Kolasinac is not very good from 4 yards out?
It's not very good from most places on the pitch, to be honest. I've said enough times on the show, he's the dunce.
Yeah, a little unfair. I think, once again, we've labelled him. I said he's not my favourite player, but he is our second choice left back, and he put more work and crosses in probably than anyone tonight. Not that they were any good, and he missed a chance from 4 yards.
There is a lack of intelligence to his game that when he does get in the final third, you look at Kieran Tierney when he's in the final third, and the thing that I love about KT, and I actually miss a little bit with him playing so deep at the moment, but the thing I love about KT when you play in a 4 or when he plays higher is he has 3 or 4 different types of crosses that he'll play in. So once he's there, he can change the angles, he can stand something up, he can blast something. For me, Kolasinac, he is athletic enough and big enough to get into the positions, but when he gets there, he's got smash across the face and smash back to penalty box. He's the ultimate Hulk. He just lacks a bit of football IQ.
He looks like he's been drawn by a cartoonist. When you've got a kid's football magazine and he's the big one. When you draw a big player, there's always one big hard player. That's him. And unfortunately, he plays a little bit like he's two-dimensional when he's made of cardboard, doesn't he? He's just not quite. I mean, look, let's just say I'm sure we would have liked to have got rid of him in the summer. But there weren't any takers. I mean, we could go on to this. I'll bring it up later, but we were told that all players with 2 years left on their contract would either be sold or new contracts would be signed. There's a lot of those players coming up this year that we're in some real trouble. I don't want to.
We're going to lose. We're going to lose to win next year, and it's important that we do it. We're going to lose some players. We're going to dump some money out next year, but we're also going to clear the roster very quickly and very efficiently, just purely based on bad contracts coming to an end.
Yeah, it'll be a big hit, but it'll be so worth it. It'll be worth its weight in what we can then bring in.
Okay, look, I mean, I'm only speculating here because I want to obviously talk about El Neni because of the two of you ridiculing me for weeks about saying he was playing well. Obviously, we're going to talk in length about that and maybe Manchester United. But El Neni, and I'm not, and I'm all, but also with my perspective, I'm not going to now say he's the best player in the world, where I've been saying for weeks he's been playing efficiently, he's been doing well, and I think there's more to him as a player than you and many others. You're not alone, of course. 95% of the fan base, were dismissive of El Neni as a player. But and I say, so I'm not going to say he's now going to become first choice and everything's going to be rosy. But if he does turn into that player, he's out of contract at the end of next year. We seem to have fucked up a bit, don't we?
He'll sign a new contract. He'll sign a new contract.
Why? He's hated by the fans.
No, well, he's not. He's not hated
Oh,
by
so
the.
this week you
He's
all
not
love him.
hated.
Yeah, of course
Not
you
hated
do.
by the
Not
fans.
anymore,
Darren-
anyway.
You know,
Yeah,
he has a Twitter account. He has a social media account. He will read that for weeks people have told everyone's told him he's not good enough. And I would if I was playing for a team where we have, I don't know, 15 million fans around the world, of which 5 million of them are on social media, of which 4.9 million of them have been calling me a cunt for 3 weeks. I'm going to think, well, I want to go and start.
I don't think
afresh.
I don't think that many people have ever called El Neni a cunt. Because he always gives 100%, even when his ceiling for a lot of it has been 7 out of 10.
All right, maybe you didn't call him.
I put up a tweet, Darren, after the Man U game, and I said the best thing any player can do to any fan base is make them eat their words. I have solidly eaten mine today. Fantastic performance from El Neni. The partnership with Partey looks very, very good. So I'm very, very happy to stand here as an Arsenal fan. I can't be happier than eating my words and having a player come out and put in a really amazing performance.
Yeah,
but I think it's actually the combination.
Will it make
I
it
think
because does Pogba want to sign a new contract at Manchester United? He's become their whipping boy in their fan base.
I don't think El Neni has played like this to get himself a contract somewhere else or a bigger contract somewhere else. It doesn't appear to be part of his personality. And you know what? If he wanted to, that would be his right, because he's been at the club for long enough and he's done enough. And I wouldn't begrudge him if someone decided to come in and offer him a big contract. But I don't think it's in his personality type. I think that he will ultimately, he's done this because he wants to feel part of the team. He is part of the team. He's obviously a great guy to be on the pitch with. And I don't think this is necessarily like that. This performance is 100% built of El Neni. I think this performance is built of a combination with Partey. It's almost very similar to when Coquelin came back and formed that partnership with Cazorla, and Cazorla bumped Coquelin up a couple of notches. And once Cazorla got injured, Coquelin went back to kind of what he was before. And I see that with El Neni. And what I really hope is that Arteta looks at it and he says, this combination has worked from a structural perspective, from a work perspective, from an output perspective, from a security on the ball perspective. It allowed Partey to get further forward. So I'm the first person to put my hand up and say, I was maybe a little bit wrong about El Neni. So you can laugh all you want, Darren.
No, I'm laughing because do you know what? El Neni's now flavour of the month, and everyone's now on the bandwagon. El Neni's great, and I don't want to go there. But what I do laugh is that what you've just said is something I heard I listened to about 3 or 4 podcasts today while I was working, and mainly Arsenal ones, some general ones about football. But everyone said what you said. Because Partey's there, has become a better player. Partey suddenly made El Neni better. But, did you watch El Neni come on for the last 15 minutes tonight? Put 2 incisive balls through, set up. He had the pre-assist on one and the pre-assist on 2 goals in the last, or should have been. One was disallowed, wasn't it? Or hit the post. But it was El Neni who's come on. Thomas Partey wasn't playing. El Neni's picked up the ball. He's put an incisive ball down to the line. He's put Tierney through on one side. He's put the ball into Pepe, who's then got a simple ball into Wilk to score the goal. They were El Neni passes. He wasn't as limited as you thought he was.
But can I just say, Darren,
Thomas Partey?
Can I just say that El Neni made Thomas Partey better? That was Thomas Partey's best performance at Arsenal as well. So I will give El Neni the same credence that I just gave Partey in talking about combinations. It doesn't always take the best players on the pitch to form the best combinations. And that's what I meant about Coquelin and coming in and being really good. But I think Thomas Partey was able to drive into spaces. Do you remember last week when you said, why should I get excited about Thomas Partey? I haven't seen him run with the ball yet. I haven't seen him drive with the ball. In the game against Man U, the effortless way in which he just strode out. Everyone was talking about Partey and his power. He's so powerful, he's so powerful. I left that game and I said, he has so much finesse in the way that he glides through and he just opens up his body and moves. And he was paired with Ceballos, and he didn't look good. He was paired with Xhaka. He wasn't bad, but he didn't look like that player. And then he gets paired with El Neni, and El Neni gives him the security, or El Neni gives him the assurance, or he looks over his shoulder and knows El Neni is going to be able to close the space if and when he drives forward. So I think that they're complementary at the moment. It is one game. Tactics change, and the tactics in that particular game may have meant that Arsenal won that midfield and it looked particularly good. but it absolutely means that the next 11, the next team sheet that gets picked, El Neni and Party get another opportunity to go out and do it again. And if they do it 2 or 3 times, fantastic. There's your midfield pairing.
Maybe I'm not so sure you will see El Neni at the weekend. I hope we do, but I think there's an opportunity. We're going to be playing against an Aston Villa side that will sit deep and try to counter attack, and then maybe you do need a Ceballos or on tonight's performance or Willock to maybe break them rather than having an El Neni.
I don't think Ceballos is getting anywhere near that team anytime soon. He's been garbage.
Can I just say as well, when you said I asked you last week, for those who didn't listen last week, it makes it sound like I was criticising Thomas Partey.
No.
Actually genuinely asking, I haven't seen him before, why should I be excited? Yeah. Yeah, I think your tense was, why should I be excited by this Thomas Partey? I wasn't being critical of
it. Was just interesting. When I was watching the game, I was thinking about you, and I was thinking, there you go. I was thinking, there you go, Darren. That's exactly the thing that you said last week when you were talking about Liam and I talking about him breaking the lines and running through the middle, and he broke the lines and ran through the middle and passed the ball. So very happy, very excited.
You're thinking about me when you're watching Arsenal and not when you're not.
I am, mate.
So let's briefly touch on Manchester United, because obviously the guys did the review show on Tuesday. It was let me I tend to play devil's advocate. Let me say we won 1-0 with a penalty against one of the worst Manchester United sides I've ever seen. And we played very similar to we did in the Leicester game, where in the first half we were, created chances and didn't take them. And we could have lost that game very easily 1-0. It could have gone the other way. We don't get the penalty. They had a couple of chances, not many. But are we going overboard now? Liam, sorry, I haven't come to you for a while. Were we going overboard? Are we going overboard now after a scrappy 1-0 win against a very, very poor side?
Perhaps. I think we're genuinely elated, mostly because we've won the game the first time. We've broken the duct, as I said last week, and all that stuff. But I don't think we also got a lot of credit from the media. So a lot of it was about how awful, particularly Roy Keane, I'm looking at him, about how awful Man United were. But we didn't let Bruno have any chance whatsoever to find Rashford or Greenwood in that game. And that stopped Man United, because Pogba didn't look interested in defending or going either way, quite frankly. Fred and Matic aren't good enough. McTominay, he's not good enough on the ball. He's all right defensively, got an engine, but he's not good enough. They play the stupid system, but we didn't let them get anywhere. How many times did we win the ball back in their half before they could find Rashford, Greenwood? But sometimes they couldn't even find Bruno. So I think we deserved a lot of credit for not letting Man United play, as poor as they might have been. Maybe we could have done more in the final third ourselves, but I felt we probed. There was a bit more threat about us, even if we didn't have the shooting opportunities. So I'm really genuinely quite pleased with how we played. Maybe it's gone slightly overboarded, but there's a lot we could take from that, and I'm genuinely very happy with how we played.
Right, Max, I'll come to you on that as well. I was generally elated because we went out with an attitude that was different to theirs. We went out with an attitude of a team that was confident and was going to win, and they weren't going to let Manchester United play. Everything that Liam said, I absolutely agree with. There was a sort of determination from the first minute, and of course we tied as the game went on. We got lucky. We got a penalty from we weren't going anywhere on that attack, and we went 1-0. And I just want to quote something that I heard on a podcast today, where somebody said, we did only beat Manchester United, who have got a manager, let me see if I can get this right, who've got a manager in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer who sits on the side looking sad, looking confused. That was it, looking confused like a dog watching another dog on television. I thought that was a great laugh.
Yeah, I heard that too. It was brilliant.
Yeah, it was on the Arsecast Extra. I picked it up, and it was a tweet from someone, but I thought that was a fabulous comment. I mean, Max, are we going overboard or
No. Well, a couple of things.
Are we going overboard? We hardly created a chance, in the second half, for example.
Couple of things. You can only beat what's in front of you. Teams are about structures and tactics, and I didn't even, for all of the fanfare about Bruno, I didn't even know he was on the pitch. Such was he marked out of the game that I didn't even know he was on the pitch, and all of the routes and all of the channels into their front three, except for, one ball through to Rashford and one ball through to Greenwood on an acute angle. Everything was cut off. And I often say, win the midfield, you should win the game. And a lot of the time this season, I've said we didn't win the midfield, and that's why we struggled. Now, I rewatched the Leicester game because I was bored shitless. I was bored out of my mind. And I actually came around to think that there was actually a lot of very good in that game we just didn't execute. There's a lot of very good structure in that game we didn't execute. We went into Man U, made a tweak in midfield as far as our running and our ability to close spaces quickly. Unfortunately for all of you Xhaka fans out there, that's what you get when Xhaka doesn't play. You get the spaces get closed in front faster and the recovery speed is better. So it means that you're able to push forward in midfield and know that you can recover better. So that was an interesting tweak to see that. It's something that I've been saying for a really long time, that we lack running. You can only beat what's in front of you. I think it was wonderful, a wonderful game to watch. I found it enthralling to watch. I found it like, so I box and I watch quite a lot of boxing, and often people think that certain fights are really boring, and they're not. They're just incredibly tactical, and you have guys feeling each other out for periods of time, moving people around the ring. And I was engrossed in it from the start, staring at the formations and looking at the areas that people were occupying. I don't think it's the nature of the win. And again, I would say that our front three failed again. Who would have thought at the start of the season that we'd be talking about firepower being our major issue at Arsenal, but we are. I thought Lacazette tried his ass off again and achieved nothing. The ball bounces off him. He can't find a pass. He's so far mentally gone. I don't know. And I said earlier, I do understand why he's getting picked, because Levels and Arteta needing him to play. But to answer the question as I go around the entire world,
you have boxing, fucking whatever, baseball, anything you want to talk about?
Are we overreacting? No, because I think the people that are really excited are excited about the structures that they're seeing, not the performance. So they're excited about how that projects into what we're going to do in the future, rather than right now.
But are those the same people that a week ago, when we lost at home to Leicester, were saying we're questioning Arteta's future at the club? That's what I'm talking about. That's a 1 week swing.
I mean, that's. I think in some ways, sometimes we just have to accept that that's football, and we live week to week. We live hand to mouth as football fans. I said after the Leicester game that I was incredibly disappointed in the front three, but actually had a lot of positive points to say about the midfield and about the defense and about the structures. So I guess that's just fan. Sometimes football. My mate Lion is a huge Man U fan, and he's in the Man U forums, and he sends me snippets from the Man U forums, and it is fucking vile. Like, if you think, I think we often think that we're a bad fan base, but he sends me things, and I'm like, I cannot believe the things that get said in a Man U forum. It's horrific. So
I thought the same podcast that Liam and I listened to today, Arscast Extra, I think, is that where you heard it, Liam, the dog watching TV comment.
Yeah.
I mean, they do a little bit where they were doing it last year for Lampard, and this year they're doing, the hashtag Ollie out, and just reading some comments on Twitter from Manchester United fans. We're just as bad, I'm sure. But yeah, some of the stuff that people write is just incredible. And I just want to, we talk about Partey and El Neni maybe being our two going forward. Isn't it strange tonight, Xhaka and Ceballos were the starting two midfielders, and how slow and cumbersome and awkward it looked. And yet that was we all probably thought was going to be our top midfield pairing this year.
One of the guys in my group sent a message saying, if this isn't a stand up or sit down moment from Arteta, then I don't know what is. It was really a thing I felt to, maybe not so much to Xhaka because of where he was being played, but definitely to Ceballos, saying, you're the senior guy in the team, you're the senior midfielder, go out and do something. And Ceballos, another one who seems to have lost all momentum. Like momentum is the word for me with Ceballos. Like, when he's playing with momentum, when he's moving the ball quickly, and when people were aligning those things with Santi Cazorla and his two-footedness and, Cruyff turns and up against a press. And I just think that we may have got Ceballos almost completely wrong as fans. I think he's a player that comes to the fore when he's being heavily, heavily pressed, and he has the technical ability to break that press. As soon as you give him the ball in front of, everything's stagnant. He's not creative. He's not a powerful runner. He's not super fast. and he doesn't seem to have an incredible eye for a through ball. But when you put him under heaps of pressure, all of a sudden his technique comes to the fore and he breaks the line and knocks off a pass and he looks great. So I think we got him wrong.
He's a poor version of Mohamed El Neni.
Yeah. Poor man's El Neni, Darren. Well,
Let me enjoy the week here.
Well, on Ceballos, I've got a question for both you because I've heard it asked on other podcasts. But Danny Ceballos, £30 million today. A month ago, if someone had said you can buy Danny Ceballos for £30 million, 2 months ago you can buy him for £30 million, people would have said that's a steal, plays for Real, plays for Spain. Looking at what we've got now, the team we've got now, the style that we've got moving forward, Danny Ceballos, £30 million today. Do you buy him or do you invest that money somewhere else?
No, I'd buy him.
Because I'd put that money into a striker.
I find it quite difficult to spend 30 mil, a fair chunk of money, on a player that seems to be being overtaken by the new. I say new loosely because El Neni's been here a while, but the new guys have come into it. You know, they're overtaking Ceballos at this point and Xhaka. So it's very hard to justify 30 million quid.
No, you reinvest.
How old
24, I want to say.
I think he's younger. I think he's 22.
Is he younger than 24?
Yeah. He's
I think so.
You have a
Let me look it up.
Liam. Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, it's a no-brainer. We're suddenly El Neni's great, but a week ago he wasn't. So, in your opinion, that was. So he's
enjoying it. He's enjoying this, Liam.
Well,
he's been waiting.
You know what, sometimes I feel like a bit of a sage when you're all ranting. Aubameyang shouldn't play through the middle. You both said now everyone's clamouring for it. El Neni's a journeyman footballer, and now suddenly, and I wasn't bigging him up. I was just saying, watching what he's doing this year, and now obviously I'm getting improved. Right.
So you know how I was watching the football, thinking about Darren and thinking nice thoughts about Darren, thinking, oh, this is nice for Darren to see the thing is answered. You know what he was thinking the whole time watching on Nenny? He was thinking, watch me fuck these boys on Thursday Night Live.
We mentioned it, didn't we?
I got
just
very
a quick note on Ceballos' age. You were right, Max. He's 24.
24. Yeah, so I think it's a no-brainer because there's still a resale value on him. He's a very talented player. The one concern I have over Ceballos, which isn't one that I know the answer to, which must surprise all of you listening because obviously I know the answers to most things, but is what his attitude is like. Because I said tonight, Max, you said you would expect him tonight to come up in that team, and he should have been the star tonight. He was the best player on the pitch in theory. He was the best player. He could have run that game from start to finish. He could have done everything he wanted, and yet he had a very disappointing match. He just wasn't involved very much, and that might be, as you say, because he wasn't being pressed, because he didn't, isn't that creative player. But I wonder if it is a cold Tuesday night in Stoke situation with him, with no crowd.
And he's a Real player and a Spain player. You're right. Maybe it just doesn't tickle his. I'm going to step up and do this, fancy. But I'll tell you, I did actually look into what his personality was like, because I read a couple of articles when he came, and his personality is that he's incredibly spiny, has a history of not getting along with his teammates, has a history of not getting along with managers.
Oh, Zidane wanted him out,
Yeah, we saw him get in that fight with Eddie before the game, which we all said, we don't mind that because he's like that. But apparently that's very much what he's like. He's an aggressive, fighty, spiny character. So I think that's maybe why you expect him to, if he's losing his spot, stand up and fight for it. But someone said something interesting. I think it might have been on the Ask Bros USA. Might have been Stan the Man. If it wasn't, shout out to Stan the Man anyway. But he said, never underestimate the different mentality when you're on loan. When you're on loan to a club and you're not the player of that club. So right now he's on loan. He knows by hook or by crook he's going back to Real. Right? There's nothing in place. So whether or not maybe he's going to lose his position and put his head down now and be like, oh, well, fuck you then. I'm here on loan anyway. Or not, I don't know. But he's not one of ours. He is on loan.
But that's the key. That's what I would answer the question. To me, it's a no-brainer. He's 24 years old. He's a very talented player. He's from Real Madrid. He's always going to be worth 30 million if we wanted to sell him in 2 years' time. Always going to be worth 30 million pounds. So to me, we do it. But I would like to know if his attitude is right and he's going to drive to get, because we could buy him in January. I mean, there is that option, isn't it? I'm sure if he was flying now, we'd be trying to buy him.
I was actually under the impression that we had got the loan, and there was an underlying comment that we had to buy to get the loan. That was my understanding when he came, that the figure was essentially already set.
Just wanted to put up a question that came in from Rick. Love it. So if Thomas Partey can turn El Neni from a 7 out of 10, as Max calls him, to a 10 out of 10, will he turn Willock into Pele? Thanks, Rick. Thanks for the question. You can send questions in, by the way. I haven't had many tonight, but you can send them in. Who wants to take that?
You go, Liam.
Can I get the easy out of there to play different positions? Centre mid, centre forward.
Well, what do you think, Liam, about this structure, this formation that Arteta is playing, right? And again, I use that term really loosely of formation because we all know that it's about areas and it's about positions, and we're doing things in attack and doing things in defence. A lot of people seem to think that a change to a 4-3-3 as a permanent structure is the way that Arsenal are going to go forward. I don't think Arteta is going to change to a 4-3-3. I think this is his system, and he'll get the players to fit in there. So how do you get a Willock into this team, into this structure?
So to look at it from the coach's point of view, when we're talking about the four.
Oh, he's had another 4-3-3s
and the formations. I don't think to do anything different. Have I frozen again? Sorry.
You did froze.
Every week. You freeze in these wonderful positions. Like,
I need to put a sticker on. I need to put like a sticker on or something.
Yeah, sorry, those of you listening on the podcast, we obviously can see each other. And Liam has this habit when his internet drops that he just looks like he's sucking someone's dick. When it freezes, always.
Yeah. Continue, Liam, please. How we fit Willock into the Arteta system.
Okay, so when we're talking about the 4-3-3s, I don't think he's actually changed anything. That's the first thing I'll say, because when you attack and when you defend, it's all about how you fill 5 different channels. You've got your outer wings, inside forwards, the centre forward pivot. Behind that, you've then got your support players. So that's where Partey and El Neni were operating behind our front 5, so to speak. I see Willock as better in that support mechanism rather than the front 5, because he can come from deep and be the threat that breaks up the 5, which is where we want creativity to come from. So for me, I would like a midfield 3 of Partey, El Neni, Willock, an enabler, a driver, a goal threat. I haven't quite worked out how you get them to fill the 5 channels, though.
Yeah,
so
I mean, Max
it's an
talks,
interesting one.
Yeah, good points. I mean, Max talks a lot about Aaron Ramsey, and I think that's where Willock is for me. And I thought Emil Smith-Rowe was going to be that player as well. That's the sort of thing we're missing in this. We have got a very fluid structure, but we are zonal. Arteta makes our players keep to there. You can hear him on the sideline, tell him exactly, come back, move back. I mean, in El Neni, when he made that great mazy run chasing down at the end of the Manchester United game, I heard Lee Dixon on a podcast today saying the players would have been pulling their hair out that El Neni has chased the ball all over the pitch because he's left his place. He said, I don't want to criticise him because he had a great game, but he shouldn't have chased someone all over the pitch just to try and win the ball back.
The thing is, though, coming out of your spots isn't the problem. It's about how you refill the spot, how you get back in, and how you recover. And that's where we start talking about recovery speeds, which players like Xhaka, I don't want to call them out and criticise, but Xhaka and Mustafi just don't have recovery speed. So when they come out of the holes, that's not the problem. It's the getting back into the hole. And that's what I think El Neni did superbly. One of the things he did so well. That's another thing that Partey brings and can do as well. Have I frozen again, haven't I? See you all laughing.
This time you were blowing me a kiss.
What is it with my internet? Hold on.
This time you were swallowing.
So this is sort of my thinking on it, Darren, and where I'd like to see the team go, and where I think some of the frustrations for Arsenal fans are at the moment. So this structure that Arteta plays, which I think against the big teams we've seen it, and we kind of feel like it works. Liverpool, we played well. We had opportunities to score. We didn't take our opportunities. We only lost it a little bit. City, I think we should have won that game. I think Leicester, we should have won that game. And Man U, we did win the game. So against those top teams, this structure and this 3 at the back and everyone in their channel, great. The games that are going to fuck people off this season are the Sheffields and the Villas if we go there and we play in the same structure. So I don't see Arteta changing out that formation so much. But I think if you're going to go to a team who's going to sit in a low block and try and hit you, you need the pace and the power and the running. You need the late arrivals into the box. Now, if you see Joe Willock in every single goal that was scored in this game, Joe Willock was in a scoring position, right? He made the run into the box. He dragged out a defender, whether he got there or not, but he caused havoc. And if you look at our games across the season, there's not enough havoc. There's not enough madness at Arsenal as far as disruption and moving pieces around the board. So I think if Joe's going to get into this team, he's going to do it against your Villas, against your Sheffields, against your Fulhams, against your teams, especially when we're at home, that we should be going there and we should be dominating and we're going to have the majority of the passing. And if he does play in a 3 with El Neni and Partey, I would feel really confident based on what Liam said that El Neni and Partey are going to be able, like a friend of mine who's a football coach, he talks about emptying the bucket and refilling the bucket. He's like, you have to empty the space, you have to refill the space. And those guys are going to empty and refill. And then hopefully what you get from Willock that you're not getting from anyone else in the team, that you do not get from Ceballos when you play a midfield 3 with Ceballos, and you do not get from Xhaka when you play a midfield 3 with Xhaka, is a guy making late runs into the box, arriving late and arriving at that penalty spot. Willock for me tonight was a 10 out of 10. And if he would suit Villa for me. Like, let's go to Villa and let's smash fucking Villa to pieces.
Is there an argument then because I think we're all thinking the same, how do we fit him in? Is there an argument, excuse me, that must be me. Is there an argument that we could maybe take the place of Lacazette and just play with the 2 up front? Aubameyang sort of moves wide and inside frequently during the game, as does Willian, as does Pepe. If you were just to take out Lacazette and play with those 2 there and go to I don't really want to call it a 3-5-2 because it's, we know that we're flexible. Sometimes it's a 5 at the back, sometimes it's 3, and we know that he is fluid. But if we were to take Lacazette out and maybe have Willock sitting in that advanced midfielder role ahead of Partey and El Neni.
In a 4-2-3-1 is what you're saying. Let Oba float around up the top and let Partey and El Neni sit with Willock in front and then have wingers.
Yeah, I was thinking more like a 4. Is it a 3-4-1-2 maybe? Is that add up?
It's the Christmas tree.
Well, yeah, but giving him that free role that Ramsey used to do. The problem with Ramsey, and Ramsey was a good player for us and an incredibly good businessman to be able to get 400 grand a week and go and sit on the bench in a hot country. Don't blame him at all. We should have tied him down to a contract when we had the opportunity to. But he would be found wanting because he'd go up the pitch and then there'd be that hole when your bucket was empty and it wasn't refilled. But Lacazette isn't bringing much. I thought Lacazette had a very good game at Manchester United. His first touch still wasn't very good, but his work rate was exceptional. He broke up the play really well. But he didn't give us anything going forward. He did the things that Willock did well tonight, but Willock added an extra facet to his game by scoring goals and creating chances.
You know what the difference is? Lacazette's running back into midfield and Willock is running forward into midfield. Willock is driving into the space. Lacazette is falling back.
Can we say that? I mean, look, we don't want to go, Willock's the best player in the world. He's done very well.
No, not at all. Not at all.
He's played very well against Dundalk and Molde. So he's, you're right. But Aston Villa are better than those 2 sides, so maybe he wouldn't be so effective.
But I think with Arteta, we have to expect that if people put their hands up in the Europa League, so this is now 2 good games for Willock, we haven't seen him. I want to say we may not have even seen him at all in the Premier League. He definitely hasn't started in the Premier League this season after getting quite a few starts last season. I would just think, knowing Arteta, I would think that there will be a time where he'll start to bring him in for playing well. He'll reward him for playing well. And he must be looking at that, and he must be looking at that engine, and he must be looking at that disruption and the mayhem that Willock causes. Can I tell you what I thought the best piece of play that Willock had all game was for the own goal when he ran through the middle, when he drove through the middle. Because if he doesn't make that run, the defender never has to make the decision. And it's a run from miles away. He kills himself to get there, absolutely kills himself to get there. And you look at all of the stills of Arsenal and all of the midfielders that we've had, you always have this gaping hole in the middle. And because Willock was running into the space, it meant that Eddie could actually make a run in between defenders. And you ended up, like Liam said, with your 5 channels across the front. You ended up with everyone sort of pushing against the front and then Willock running in between people and causing all of this mayhem. So I guess it's interesting because to get another midfielder into the team in the current structure, you need to drop a defender. You need to either drop a defender or do what Darren said, and you need to drop a striker. And I think, like we said at the start of this, talking about formations, it's kind of neither here nor there with Arteta because the formation isn't really a formation. It's about areas and it's about zones. So it's about which zone we give up or which zone we don't have to allow Willock to get into that team. And I think all of us would be really excited to see it.
I need to make a point before you come away from something that you just said. I want to just question something. You praise Willock because he made those driving runs and he was creating those opportunities, but he also got in the way of Nketiah on 3 or 4 occasions. Yeah,
yeah. Well, he's not a complete player. He also fluffed a couple.
But what I'm saying is if you took Nketiah out of that side tonight, and I'm not suggesting we should, but if you took Nketiah out of that side tonight, then Willock was making all those runs. He was getting in exactly the same spaces as Nketiah did. So that's what I'm saying. Maybe if you took Lacazette out and just allowed him to run free in that side, to make those runs. And then, we're critical sometimes that we don't have anyone in the middle. Aubameyang's out wide, Pepe's out wide. We're saying, there's the argument Aubameyang should play through the middle to give him that free run. Maybe that's the place we should give to Willock.
I think he tried to do exactly what you just said when he played Willian through there and it didn't work for him. I felt that was what his mentality was. He was essentially saying, I'm going to let the wingers form a 2 and Willian's going to play in this false 9 and feed them, and it didn't work. So why not, Darren? If he was willing to put Willian through the middle and drop Lacazette for it, why not on form put more of a power runner in there? And let's face it, when Willock is in front of goal, I'll question anyone to find us a more powerful finisher. Like he wants to get in there and he wants to nut it. He may not be a beautiful finesse finisher, but of the last couple of years, Joe Willock has scored some fucking screamers for us as well. And we lack screamers from midfield. We lack anyone getting on the ball and giving one a whack just to destabilize, to give defenders a decision to make that someone's going to cunt one from 20.
Let's do a couple of questions that come in. Sorry, I just saw this. This was from Rohan, who says he'd rather put the 30 million that we were talking about would we spend on Ceballos towards, he would put it towards Aouar instead. I guess my only comment on that, Rohan, is that for me, 30 million in today's stupid world, we can find down the back of the sofa. If that's the question, if he's worth 30 million, he's always going to be worth 30 million. So it's not to me about investment. That's just a no-brainer because he will always be worth 30 million. I would like to see Aouar, but people said that Partey wasn't going to be the creative player who's going to be this defensive powerhouse, but it doesn't look like that. Liam, are you got anything on that?
No, it depends what type of player you want. If you want to replace Ceballos, Aouar's not the same type of player.
No, I love this question. Sorry, I got to put this one up as well. Is Ozil, this is from Postman Pat, is Ozil the best player you have ever seen? We don't talk a lot about Ozil on this podcast.
Fucking troll.
Well, I'd say, look, we don't talk about Ozil a lot on this podcast. For me, it's fairly straightforward. He's not in the side. He's not been registered to play. I'm sick and tired of the circus that surrounds him, and it doesn't interest me anymore. He's for whatever reason, whoever's right, whoever's wrong, it doesn't matter to me.
Doesn't matter now anyway. He's not registered. If he's not registered, he's not an Arsenal player. He wears a training kit.
When I saw that question from Postman Pat, is Ozil the best player you've ever seen? I'll have a think about that, you two. But can I say, from my time watching Arsenal, I don't think he makes my Arsenal top 20, let alone my all football I've watched. I don't think he makes my Arsenal top 20. And that may be a little bit of sourness over the last year or so, because I thought he was a terrific player, but he wasn't the complete player. And we've had a lot better. Doesn't make my top 20. Liam, is Ozil the best player you've ever seen? You're a lot younger than me.
No, he's one of my favourite players I've ever seen. But for me, Messi, I can't think of anyone better than Messi. If we're talking Arsenal, Fabregas.
Did you not watch Henri and Vieira and Dennis Bergkamp?
I think
problem is I was a bit
Liam's
too
talking
late.
about that position, though, aren't you? You
A little
can't
bit.
apples and oranges. You can't compare Henri to Ozil. They're fucking different
No,
players.
no. Sorry, the question says, "Is he the best player you've ever seen?" The best player I've ever
fuck
seen.
no.
He's probably Thierry Henry, followed very closely by 100 others. Ozil is not in my top 20.
Dennis Bergkamp, Henri.
Slight caveat. I was a little bit too late to the Henri and Bergkamp party. I was supported. Well, I got into football after the Invincibles.
Okay, all right. Yes, he's I go back 45 years watching Arsenal. So, Liam Brady's still my favourite player from that decade. Tez has asked us all to do a Guna to Guna during the international break in a couple of weeks' time. And I looked at the questions, and best Arsenal player, blimey, I'm going to have to pick one from each decade because it's just not easy for me. There's a lot of players. Would Brady have been good in today's game? Who knows? Would Thierry Henry have been good in the side that would have had his legs kicked out of him and his legs and ankles kicked every week in the 70s? It's
very hard. It's very hard to do best teams of all time and best players of all time because eras are different. People talk about Pele and Maradona and guys that I think you have to look at players of eras, and the best players of the eras. Is Ozil the best player that I've seen in this era? As someone who generally calls Ozil a cunt, I'll tell you that some of the things that he has done on a football pitch, I've never seen another footballer pull off.
Yeah. So okay, fair enough. And when I say he's not in my top 20, he does make probably my top 30. But that's just because there's been a lot of good players.
I think the problem with the Ozil argument, and we deliberately don't try and delve into this on this show. The problem with the Ozil argument is it's the highlight reel argument all over again, right? If you look at, say, a player's highlight reel purely, and you judge all of your opinions on their highlight reel, then you're going to have a warped view. I say to people, you want to know if a player was truly great or not? Look at their low light reel. Look at what they did when they were doing nothing. Look at the spaces that they filled when they weren't being effective, when they weren't being beautiful, when they weren't painting in bright colors. And I tell you what, when you talk about paintings, when Ozil's not doing his thing, he's painting with his own shit.
Okay, I think that's a good time to leave it. I've just looked at the time. I always like to keep these to an hour, and we've already done an hour and 15 minutes. Thanks to everyone who listens and joins and listens to the podcast. We've got some really good numbers as well, and they're all over the world. So thank you ever so much, everyone who's listening. We did change the name to Thursday Night Live because we were the preview podcast. But we never really previewed anything. We just talk like we talk now. There's always lots to talk about. There's always some interesting discussions and different opinions that make this interesting to do, and I hope to listen to as well. But we should just have a quick look at Villa at the weekend. Villa, another comment I heard on Twitter was from a Villa fan. Are we shit again? Are we? That's it. They were really good. Put 7 past Liverpool. They were top of the table for a week or so, and now they've just lost at home 4-3, was it? And they were 4-0 down to a Southampton side. Another interesting stat there, Southampton. I know I'm going from one to another, but Southampton, only Manchester City and Liverpool have won more games in this calendar year than Southampton. Very strange. Wouldn't have thought that they had managed that. But Villa, are we really pleased that they actually let in 4 goals at the weekend, so that they're not as confident as they would have been?
Yeah, I'm not too worried. I'm not too worried about the game as long as we've got speed in our team. If we've got speed and legs, we'll be fine.
Okay.
I am really genuinely. I'm worried as an Arsenal fan because I feel like I have battered wife syndrome. Like I actually have put this in the prediction league as a loss because it is just so very like us. It would be so very like us to go there and control the game and not do a lot. And it would be so very like us. We all think El Neni and Party are going to play and fucking jack a partner's party, and it's slower than a wet weekend, and we all jump up and down next week because that is the pantomime of Arsenal. Do I think that if we play fast attacking football, Villa are better than us? No. But do I think we're going to play fast attacking football? I don't know.
I mean, look, none of us know. I mean, I guess that's why our previewing is a little bit not in our skill set. But let's just say that after last Thursday night's win against lowly Dundalk, we were, all three of us, quite excited about the energy and enthusiasm that was shown. And all, I think, to a man, said that at least one of those players should have broken into that first team because they deserved it. Because the first team had been slow, lacking in ambition, just not motivated. That first team then went to Manchester United and did exactly what we thought they were. We were criticising them for not doing. They went with energy, with ambition, with enthusiasm, with purpose. And then we watched the first half tonight against us versus Mulder, and we were rubbish. Do you know what I mean? We were. We were slow. We were passing it back side to side. We were the first team. So who knows what Arsenal are going to turn up?
But you got to admit, it would be so very Arsenal to go and control it and lose it 1-0 on the counter attack.
And just one other stat. Sorry, Liam, you carry on, please.
Yeah, I was going to say, the thing is, the first goal for us seems to be really important in every game we play. If we score the first goal, Villa have to be more expansive. They have to come out, more gaps. If we go 1-0 down, they'll just sit back because they know they can't. We can't break down a deep block. So,
well, I'll tell you who's due is Oba. Oba's due a brace or a dominant performance. Like he is overcooked due. I know he smashed that penalty in. That's his technique, though. But
yeah, he hasn't played well this season.
He hasn't played well this year. He hasn't played well since he had even at Fulham, where he scored a cracker. He didn't play fantastic at Fulham. So he's 5 or 6 games without a really dominant performance, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is that penalty last week. He's found the back of the net. It drops that hoodoo off him. He scored his goal. It might go out and bang in a couple and lead the way for us.
Let's hope so. Just to finish tonight, then I just want to another stat and another great player. I think we've got the best defensive record in the Premier League. Fuck me, if you'd have said that to me any time over the last 5 years, I would have thought you were completely crazy.
And our goal production is one of the worst. So we've turned the team on its head. And it's, do you know what? It's an epitome of football, Darren, because it's you can't have your cake and eat it too. Yeah. You get big tits. Missus has a bad ass. It's very rare that you get everything, right? You have to pick the bits that you like in life. And right now we've swapped tits for ass.
Yeah, well, I don't want to say on that note. It's like a good way to finish. But I just wanted, because I've not been, certainly I'm never critical. I'm certainly not been critical of Gabriel. But I was just a little devil's advocate with you two and with a lot of people who kept saying how great he was. And I'm being really honest when I look at
Should have been sent off.
Forget that. But looking, that's football. But looking at how he played in the first 4 or 5 games, everyone was saying how fabulous he was. And I was just sort of saying, well, hang on. He's made a couple of errors, given the ball away a bit. He looks a bit clumsy sometimes, looks a bit nervous. But I also, said that he's new to the country, he's new to the club. That's all acceptable. But I just thought we were going a bit overboard. But I thought at Old Trafford at the weekend, he was immense. He was really immense. Can
I just very quickly say that an unsung hero for Arsenal as well in that game, I thought Rob Holding ass-fucked Rashford. Absolutely old-fashioned ass-fucked him. Every time he put a challenge in, he left studs on him, didn't let him go, came back from injury. He was very good before he went out on injury. And everyone kind of waxes lyrical about Gabriel, and there's a reason for that, because he gives us nostalgia about players from the past. He makes us think about a Kolo Touré or a Sol Campbell, and we haven't had him for so long. But Rob Holding, for me, this season has been up there probably in Arsenal's top 3, top 4 players. Very, very consistent, very unsung.
I need to say that Sol Campbell is banned from this podcast. I can't stand the man. I said there's a handful of players in my time that when they put the shirt on, I didn't want anything to do with them. Sol Campbell, would you believe, won everything with a club, was a huge success. Everyone loves him. Can't stand him. Can't stand the fact that a man, I've said this before, can't stand the fact that a man who is captain of Tottenham Hotspur, as a man, he goes and joins the rivals for nothing. I think he ass-fucked Tottenham and all. Loved it, think it's funny, think it's great, loved all that side of it. But as a man, I can't understand why anyone would do that. And there's no argument that anyone could give me that say that was a good decision for anyone. I mean, obviously, we played well. We won things with him. He was a very, very good player. Got no doubt about that. But can't stand the man. Just think and when you listen to him now, he's been sacked again. He keeps getting sacked as managers, and all he says is it's because I'm black. Maybe it's because you're just not a very likable man.
He was. My family come from Southend. He was dreadful. He was very poor.
It's because he's black, not because this isn't a racist comment, but he's
he was just a poor manager.
He doesn't get the opportunities because he's black. He doesn't get the opportunities because there's some big, deep flaw in his character. And if that's the man that's leading you, I wouldn't want to play for him. If he left the club that he was captain of for nothing to join their main rivals, just not right. Funny, but not right. Anyway, hour and 20 minutes.
On that bombshell, we'll all go to work.
One of my five, John Hawley, centre forward in about 1974. He was the other way on that list. I've got a list. Anyway, let's call it a night. Thanks, Max, Liam, for joining us tonight. You can catch Max. Max does a podcast, the Arse Brothers franchise, Arse Bros. Really good, really entertaining. There's more than one as well. There's a selection of them, and every time I listen to them, they're really good, entertaining shows. So you can catch Max, unless you hate him and think he talks shit. Then
no, but Darren, the funny thing is, right? We get some people who listen to us now just because they don't like what we say. Yeah, and I welcome those people as well. They literally listen to the podcast to put comments in there saying you cunts are fucked, and I'm like, at least you're listening. At least you're listening, guys.
If I can make someone angry every week, I'm happy. Yeah. But genuinely, it's you two that I'm aiming at. Liam, people can catch you on Twitter at Groningoona.
First time. That's
see, look, 8 weeks in. Here we go.
There you go.
I'm a professional, and you can catch me. Not that I tweet much, although I did tweet this show out tonight. That's a promotion. You can find me at Deligoona on Twitter. And what more can I say? Big week, 2 victories, fantastic performance at Old Trafford, decent job done tonight. What a week to be an Arsenal fan. Thank you all for listening.